Welcome everybody to a very special episode of the Menfulness Podcast. Today, as you can see, I'm joined with the other trustees. It's the first time we've done a podcast like this. We've asked our members, our volunteers, and the public to pose questions for us. So I've got a list of questions here. I've got you boys crammed into my back room. Hope you're all right. Before we get going, shall we just have a quick round of who we all are? Name, age, favourite food, what you perceive your position in Menfulness to be. You happy with that?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Jack, are you happy to go first?
Yes, hello, I'm Jack. I'm 42. My position, I'm not too sure what my position is. I suppose trustee for Menfulness. My favourite food is apple and Stilton sausage.
Oh, I thought you were vegan.
Didn't take long. 30 seconds.
I'm not a vegan. I'm not a vegan.
Thank you, Dan.
Hello, I'm Dan. I am a trustee slash reception. I don't know, whatever I do. I'm 41, and my favourite food, I do like a cream tea.
Oh, yeah.
Big fan of the cream tea.
Oh, yeah, you do, don't you?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm Sam Watling, as some of you may know, and I am 38. I'm a roast dinner fan, and I've just had 3 in a row for Christmas. 3 Christmas dinners, cooked one, ate a further 2, so I'm roast dinnered out right now.
You in credit by one as well.
I am at her. And yeah, I feel like I'm sort of admin, dog's body, podcasting guy, I feel like.
Yeah.
Matty, what about you?
As well. I'm Matty. I am 37, trustee and media. I would say my favourite meal is a chicken and bacon Caesar salad with a side of sweet potato fries.
Oh,
Wowzers.
I know, yeah. Healthy, balanced.
yeah, I was going to say, I wouldn't have had you down with that,
balance.
but there's the chips in there.
It's
for
a
the...
balance,
Nice.
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm Mike Hewitt. I'm 40. Position trustee. Do the accounts, bit of logistics, I suppose, is probably my forte. And favourite food is pizza. All the
Pizza.
time. You can probably
Nice.
tell. But yeah, pizza.
Taylor's nightmare.
You can't beat pizza.
Thank you, boys. So yeah, we thought it would be good to get us all together, which happens rarely, to be fair. We rarely get in the room together, and now I feel very, very close to you all.
I can smell you.
It's not awkward yet.
So it's not yet, but it's going to get awkward when we get to your questions. So, are we ready to go?
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
do
let's do
this. First one is from Carl. How close are you 5 as a group, and how often do you meet? I mean, again, other than now, we are quite close emotionally, but not normally physically.
No, I think as a group, I think the support that we give each other day to day, I think is pretty key, and has definitely alleviated problems that I've had in my life and issues. And I would hope that it does the same for you guys. And I think it does. That although physically we're not always that close, I think we're very close. We're sharing messages every day, pretty much, aren't we, between each other? And I think that's been a real key, important part of it, that it's developed into this really good sort of friendship between the 5 of us, where if one of us does need something, one of the others or multiple of the others will step up and help them out, basically.
It's like when you have a best mate, isn't it? And you don't see that best mate for 3 years, and then as soon as you sit in a room with them, it's like you saw him yesterday. You know, I think it's the same for us. Like, obviously, voice notes and messages on the group every single day, and we're messaging each other as well, like off the group and stuff. And yeah, it's just I think you summed it up. Emotionally, we're very close, even if physically we're not.
I don't know what to do with that WhatsApp group. It's daily voice notes. Me probably more and for longer than most. But it has genuinely been, if I'm having a rough day and then you just chirp up like "Morning, boys," it's like hard to keep that rough day going when you've got you 4 like behind me.
I think in terms of Menfulness, that's a huge factor in why we've got to where we are, is that we get on. You know, at its most basic, we are best mates, and that's why it works, because we can be honest with each other. We can say, no, I don't agree with that, or what, anything like that we have to do now, don't we? And yeah, it just works, doesn't it?
Yeah. Thank you, Carl, for your question. And yeah, I would say we rarely meet physically, and I think we would like to meet more and sit around a table more. The business gets done by WhatsApp, and I
should
think
meet-
that's
we should meet
effective. We should meet more, but then when we do get an opportunity to get together, normally it's nice to have a social and to spend a bit of time together.
Generally descends into chaos, doesn't it?
It does.
I'm not like, while we've been getting these other bits done, all I've heard is laughing and joking.
Yeah.
And, like some of the most brutal banter I've heard.
Yeah, there'll be an X-rated podcast coming out soon. So yeah, thank you for your question, Carl. So next up, if someone has a good idea, how easy is it to make that happen? That's from Rich. I'd say it's happened. Most of the things we do have been someone else's idea, or one of us having an idea and going, "Shall we try it?"
That's the nice thing about it, though, isn't it? Someone throws, I own a coffee shop in such and such, and I'd like to give back by hosting this event. And a lot of the time, the only question we have is, how does that affect our capacity?
Yeah.
Because obviously we're all, around full-time jobs and families and other demands. So as long as it's not, taken away from our capacity, then it's hard to say no, isn't it?
I think my favourite one of those is, I think Jack, the hair school, was like, I've got this idea, boys, and then off it went, didn't it?
Yeah, onto national news at one point.
Well, that's how it happens, isn't it?
That's how you roll.
That's how we roll, isn't it? Yeah. It was Maria who was round our house doing the kids, doing my daughter's hair, and she was doing unicorn hair. Standard, isn't it, really, for a 5-year-old? And then I was just like, I can't even comb my daughter's hair without her crying. She said, "Oh yeah, well, you need to have some lessons." I was like, do you do lessons? And she's like, "Yeah, absolutely." And then that was it. And then before you knew it, on BBC News and all sorts.
And Issa's saying about wanting to do his daughter's hair at her wedding was just like, oh yeah, like it is important, isn't it? I mean, I'm on pretty good at ponytails. Getting there with pigtails, although getting him even, kind of got to even him up. So I need to get myself to the hair school, to be fair, because unicorn. Are you on unicorn hair now then?
Oh, I'm not, mate. At all.
But the only thing, like the hair school, is just obviously it's nice because everyone's upskilling, like doing the daughter's hair and stuff. But it's the same concept, isn't it? Of actually just getting like-minded guys in the room.
While you're all
that's the challenge,
together.
isn't it? Like it's almost smoke and mirrors, isn't it? We're almost tricking guys into an environment where they're going to feel supported with a hair school or a retro gaming and stuff like that.
I was going to say, with the retro gaming night, if you think where that came from, because you and I, Matty, went for a curry, didn't we?
Yeah.
That curry house that's next door
to
the Crooked Tap. We went in for a cheeky one. You joined us, didn't you, Jack? And all we did was have a 5-minute conversation with the lad behind the bar. And he told him about what we do.
Yeah.
And that's where it came from. And look at it now.
And they've been
It's one of our
amazing
most
facilitating
popular
that.
events, isn't it? It's great.
Well, I remember me and you went down, didn't we? And we were like, and they were like, yeah, we'll put an event on. And we were like, like a quiz. And they were like, no, we can do something loads better than that.
Yeah.
And clearly they can.
Yeah.
I also love the fact that Sai Long has resurrected the Breakfast Club as well, and that's really taken off because that was our big hitter back in the Yorkie Dads days, wasn't it?
Yeah, Legit Grove.
Yeah, Legit Grove. I used to love those events, and it's great that Sai's just taken it and ran with it, and that that's back up and running. So,
For those who are listening who don't know, that Menfulness kind of came out of that time, didn't it? You already had a group that was putting on events for dads who needed, I guess, moral support and dad support, and the same sort of support that we're offering blokes now, but more around the parenting thing, and it grew from that.
Yeah, it was just something we set up, wasn't it? Really bizarre, really, and then it was more, sort of streamlined into dads and parenting and stuff like that, and then it started to become more and more general and more and more sort of general about supporting other blokes, supporting other blokes, and then it was like, well, why are we just doing this for dads? And then here we are.
Yeah, man. And that's the kind of how I got involved as well, because I was in the WhatsApp group and kind of, it was lockdown and everyone was talking about the what they were doing to like keep their mental health well and running, and they were throwing out tips for each other. And I was like, we could make a Menfulness manual. And you were like, well, what if we gave you some money? Could you go and make that manual a thing then? And I was like, well, I could have a go. And then I did that. And then, so I think that was my experience of it, was come along, use it and be a part of it. And then if you've got a good idea, then we will try and make it happen. Our job is to facilitate it as best we can. within the capacity we've got. But we could not do it without all them volunteers, though, could we?
No, we couldn't do it without the money, and people raising money for
Yeah.
us and things like that. Because it was like, oh, I'm thinking of setting this up, guys. Right, okay, you set it up. We'll sort, we'll cover it for you, mate, and then off you go and
Give it a bash.
And that manual's brilliant. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
and
It's
it was
class.
Simon donated. Said, well, actually, I'm in a position where I'd like to donate to help make that happen. And yeah, it's a very much feels like a team effort, doesn't it? So yes, thank you for your question, Rich. Next up, have you been to all the events? What's your favourite and why? And that's from Adam. I definitely haven't been to them all.
I haven't. I don't have the time. That
No.
goes to how many do we have now? Is it 20 weekly, monthly events, something like that?
22 monthly events.
That's
If
a
you count
lot.
the football, if you count the football,
3
3
football
nights
a week.
week.
Yeah.
I've been. I haven't been to the walking group, for example. If you're asking about personally for my favourite, I'm biased. Is the nights group because
Yeah.
I just think it's that hardcore peer-to-peer support. We're doing it in person. It's a bit. I can understand why people may be a bit wary about coming to the nights group for the first time.
Yeah,
because it's not like I think I'm right. Answer thinking that our thinking with a lot of the events was we get guys doing an activity, and if they're doing an activity and they're sort of focused on it, then naturally they'll start engaging with each other in that conversational flow, and it goes from there. Whereas with the nights, it's hardcore, isn't it? We're sat down having it out face
Looking
to
at
face.
each other,
Well, your conscious mind isn't occupied, is it?
No, that's it. Yeah.
Like it's your conscious mind is sitting in a room with blokes talking about how you feel and stuff. And weirdly, that's the event I've not been to, and possibly partly.
Have you not?
No, possibly partly because of that, and maybe I am a bit maybe apprehensive about coming personally, but with work and stuff, it's just felt right for me, but.
That's the beauty of it, though, isn't it? There is something for everybody to
There
have
is.
a go at, and the way that you two sort of facilitate that night session, it's really. If you go in, it feels safe, it feels confidential, it is intense, and you do have to be ready to talk at that sort of. Well, you could go in and just listen to other people talk, but even going, I've been plenty of times where I've sort of held space for other people rather than sharing my own stuff, and I still leave with that emotional hangover, that kind of like.
I always use a scenario of like there's a guy will walk in the room for the first time and he's short heads down and shoulders are down, and you can see obviously there's that natural nervousness of maybe coming to an event for the first time with people that you don't know, and then he'll get stuff off his chest and he'll walk out a different person, and that only had to happen once to make it a success, and it happens week in, week out. And I just think every time you see that, for us as well as trustees, there's the reality that you could have had a long day at work and stuff going on at home, and you've got to head out in the evening and facilitate this event and be supportive and stuff, and it's probably the last thing you want to do, but actually when you see that turnaround in a human being, it just makes it all worthwhile.
I think that's clear. Like, I love listening to the voice notes, like from yourself quite often, Dan. You'll come out of the night session properly buzzing, won't you? And that's really, really like, and it's mint. Like, and I love listening to those. You're like, oh, it was intense, but two guys came out this session and stuff, and you felt like they'd shared like such a life-changing decision or whatever with you, and it's very personal as well, which is incredible. Like. And I think that the night sessions have been a huge asset to us.
Yeah, I see him a bit like a run, in that like, I can't always be, I don't always feel like I'm ready for it, but I've never regretted one that I've been to. No. Do you know what I mean? I always feel better after it, even though it can be quite intense. It's not always intense. Sometimes it's a right laugh and people are sharing their good stuff, but it can be.
That's almost the exciting side.
Yeah, you don't know what's going to happen,
and it's real, genuine connection. We're not doing it through social media or anything like that. It's face to face. And when I think about it, wasn't a particularly original concept when I thought and we thought let's start something up, and it started as a Teams call, didn't it, in lockdown? With the first one with Andy Knowles, where I thought he had Parkinson's or something, bless him, because his head was wobbling the whole time. And he wasn't. He was on a treadmill walking. He
did the first.
He was walking
on a treadmill.
He was walking on a treadmill, and I thought, and I don't mean that in a funny way. I thought, is he okay? I was genuinely concerned about his health. And then he was in his office on a treadmill, bobbing along the whole time, which was genius. But you think about where we've gone from there, where I think it was myself, Jack, and a couple of other guys.
So Nigel came and Andy came.
Nigel,
There was like 5 or 6 of us for a while, wasn't there?
An OG, Nigel.
Yeah.
And then we went from that to, I don't know what the most, we must have had 50 at one of them. You know,
there was the 60 odd was the biggest one. Yeah,
we've had so
huge.
many, and exactly like Mike just said there, I'll get home more often than not. I'll get home from those sessions, and my wife will be, you know, sat in bed reading a book or something, and she's checking in, sort of half interested. Oh, how was your event? You know, and I'm just buzzing. I'm just like, that was amazing. You know, like something really incredible happened, and it's quite a privilege to be witness to it sometimes.
Yeah,
I haven't been to like the Dad's Daughters Hair School or the Breakfast Club or the Walk and Talk, but Retro Games Night was the one that when it was first getting up and running, I can't because of other equipment now, but when it was getting up and running, I loved it because it was that more relaxed environment. You know, there was more like guys walking through the door or getting pushed through the door by the missus. That was another one. Like, it was really cool. And then there were times, you know, like you said earlier, Dan, people are sat in a social scenario, they're gaming or they're just having a drink. And there were times when I'd be talking to someone. In fact, there was one occasion where I was talking to someone and he was having a tough time because a relative had dementia and dealing with the whole journey with that. And I was chatting away and, you know, checking on him as you do. And then someone sat next to me, turned around and said, "Oh, I hope you don't mind me jumping in. My mum suffered with dementia and I went through this about 5 years ago," and started giving him advice. And I just took myself out of the situation. And I was like, well, no amount of like facilitating is going to make this any better with me. Over to you guys. And and now they're really good mates. They're sharing those lived experiences. And that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember turning up there on one of them, one of the early ones, and parking outside and being like, can I do this right now? Have I got it in me? Because I was palpitating and feeling anxious. And within minutes, I was stood at the bar and there was another guy. I think you introduced me to him. I can't remember his name. And you were like, he's, you know, this guy's feeling the same way. And I sat down and chatted to him about anxiety, and he'd driven all the way from Selby and sat outside feeling exactly the same way. Can I go in? And sometimes that first step is the bit, isn't it? It's like, what's it going to be like? And
bigger steps for you, obviously, mate, because you're on this one.
They put a little ramp in for me.
First one. First take.
So is anyone else want to talk about their favourite event, by the way?
I suppose, I suppose the retro gaming night. I mean, I do like the nights group, but you do have to be in the right frame of mind for it, and sometimes it can be heavy, can't it?
Yeah.
And if you haven't had a good week yourself, it can work both ways. It can be like really cathartic, or it can be. And I suppose as trustees, you do have that element of responsibility for everyone.
You do, yeah.
And feeling that way. So it's I do enjoy it sometimes, but weirdly, I have to be in a good space to be able to go.
Yeah.
But I absolutely love the retro gaming night.
I'm a big fan of the allotment. Obviously, it's seasonal and it stops now, and it's only just getting going. But there's something about having our own little slice of, the universe. But we make it into something, and seeing people growing stuff and talking about what it is that they're growing and what they're going to cook with it, and just learning a bit more about it whilst still doing that physical activity together. That seems to be working quite. I'm excited to see where that goes this year.
I think mine. I'm a big fan of the football. That's kind of been something that I've got involved in a lot more. I think playing in and helping to organise and facilitate, and and obviously we've got the volunteers who run it every week for us. Bless them, which is incredible that they do that and help us out. But I think the football is probably mine. I mean, there's probably less talking at the football. There's probably do it a bit maybe when you come off as a sub for 5 minutes and you just have a chit chat with somebody. But I've seen some really good organic friendships develop off the back of that. And then the little football WhatsApp group and stuff. And there's lots of sort of helping back and forth and people giving each other lifts and stuff. So although it doesn't directly result in a conversation whilst you're playing football, usually because I can barely breathe. Yeah. But there's a lot of stuff that then organically creates off the back of that, which gives people support and stuff like that, or gets people back into football who haven't played football for 15, 20 years and really missed it. Yeah. And obviously, because it's so friendly and chill and nobody's going through anybody, it's really nice. And I always love watching, and you'll see some of the there's some really decent footballers, but you'll see them give people who are lesser footballers just an extra couple of seconds on the ball, and it's just really like they could potentially just take the ball off them or potentially score that goal, but they'll lay it off to somebody to give them the opportunity, and it's just a really nice atmosphere.
Yeah.
And I think we've been blessed with the volunteers for that.
It's amazing that it stayed like that for so long as well, isn't it? Because I'm guessing the players that go are getting better as well.
Oh yeah.
But they keep that same sort of vibe going.
That's the thing with all the events though. Like, you don't have to be good at footy to feel you're not going to feel out of place by going.
No.
You don't have to even have touched a gaming controller to go to the games night.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the nice thing about it is actually you can be trying your hand at something the first time. You're still going to be welcomed and supportive. You're not going to feel like
it's inclusive, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's that
absolutely.
element.
Yeah.
Like look at the boxing that we've got going now. You know, there's guys who've never done anything like that.
Yeah.
And they'll do one session. I've had quite a few come to me and say that was great.
Yeah.
You know, love that.
And what Al does as well, Al, who does the boxing, is a qualified counsellor. So I think as well, being able to like, you can tell if someone's ready to have a chat, or if someone just wants to box, or you know, he's got that. Yeah, he's amazing. Brilliant. Thank you, boys. Right then, so you've been a charity since last May. How do you think things have changed since then? That is from Stephen. Yeah, so over a year and a half now.
I think now there's a genuine pressure to make the right decision. I think before, like as a community interest group, it was very, we're doing this and it's supportive and it's great and we're giving back and you can see the difference in people, and then you become a registered charity for all the right reasons, and suddenly actually we need to know what we're doing now. Like we need to absolutely know. And that I think, and I'm going to take this opportunity to shine the sun up your ass, Sam, because I genuinely think, and I know we've all said the same, is that transitional period between CIC to registered charity would have. I don't know if we'd ever have got there, you know. Whereas you know, all that knowledge and stuff you learnt, and you helped the pro. You almost held our hands, collective hands through it. Much bigger than yours as well, and obviously
he gives and then takes away.
And I think without that, I genuinely don't think we would have been a registered charity.
I think it was the bite-sized nibbles, wasn't it?
The nuggets.
The daily nuggets.
The
Daily nuggets. Yeah,
but that's the way that I needed to do it as well.
Sam's
Was
daily
one
nuggets.
bit of the constitution at a time, so that we all knew what it meant for us. And it's, you know, it's only now that we're really starting to we've got trustee reports to do imminently. So, you know, you're right, there is a lot more expectations on us to get it right, but we were already getting a lot of stuff right. We just needed to formalise a lot of it.
I think it gives us a much greater legitimacy as an organisation. Like, it's more serious, but what we're doing is more serious, and we are affecting change in a more serious manner, which I think is the big part. Whereas not that it felt like we were playing at it before we became a charity, but I think, you know, we've had to put checks and balances in place. We've had to, which I think we needed to do, and it just pulls us into like a realms of a much more professional style sort of body, rather than sort of just five blokes kind of messing.
And it was a big
about
decision, because CIC means that it's a essentially like a business, but with a social angle. So you could have turned it into something that meant that you could all have been paid and you could have run it like a business, but actually what you chose to do, and you know, I kind of came on board at that time, was to say, no, this should be a charity, and it is a charity. And I think that's how it was perceived by others, and that's how you ran it. None of you ever took a wage from it anyway, so it made sense. But yeah, now we have that credibility. People are prepared to donate bigger.
Yeah, we've certainly got more money.
Yeah.
Well, I think
more donations,
because we've got bigger, we've got more publicity, and everybody knows that any money that comes in goes to making the charity better. It doesn't go to like anybody's. Yeah. You know what I mean? It goes straight back. It gets fed straight back in. Making Menfulness better, or seed funding, you know, a bald man's hair school.
I genuinely think that's the only reason me and Sam are trustees, just to bring some hair.
Raise the follicle.
I think becoming a registered charity as well, it sort of felt naturally like the right thing to do for loads of reasons. But you know, no one could donate to your fundraise for your own Just Giving. You know, you couldn't apply for certain funding streams. So, and without that, we could never future-proof what we were doing. So it kind of felt, our hand wasn't forced, but it absolutely felt like the right time and the right thing to do. And I think we were all in on that at the same point, weren't we?
I'm sure there's going to be a question later on as well about what's going to happen in the future. And this was step we had to take.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
for the growth of what
Yeah.
we were doing,
Yeah.
it was a step that needed to be taken, and was the natural next step for
and
this organisation.
it becomes a bit of what's the term, like a sort of virtuous circle. Have I got that right?
Vicious?
Not a vicious, certainly not a vicious circle. But you know, in the sense that on the back of being a charity, yes, like Mike just said, we have a Just Giving account, so we get more donations. That goes into the events.
Yeah,
So like we said before, we've got 20 events. It's this sort of circle, isn't it? That it all goes into everything, and we keep doing what we're doing. We are seeing growth in what we do. More members coming in.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Which then means, I suppose, that more people refer to the counselling, which is what we spend most of our fund. A lot of those events are we put a minimal charge in that kind of covers the actual event, or it's people's time donated to us. So that means then most of the people that we help that cost us are in the fully funded counselling. So you know that is our main output, isn't it? And I suppose as we grow, that cost grows because we have more men. We've got 3,000 people that come to us to an event or work with the WhatsApp on a regular basis.
But that was an incredible partnership you created, wasn't it, Jack?
Yeah, I mean, with the counselling, what I really like about Menfulness and all the different events that we've run, it's all happened organically, and it was like responding to a need, like really, really quickly. And as a group, we thought, oh, this is something that is needed. Lots of guys talking and chatting, wasn't it? Nine times out of 10, this is enough.
Yeah.
But there was that 1 in 10 we're like, bollocks. I don't have the specialist skills to deal with this, and would say, off you go to your GP.
Yeah.
And they'll say, oh, my GP sent me here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, now we're in a predicament because I'm telling you to open up and talk, and it's really good. It makes you feel better, but actually, we might have opened up something here, and you need some specialist help. So yeah, I went and met up with Sinead, and I used to work with Sinead over at the council, and she set up a private practice at Serendipity right at the time. Only just started it, but she was also a tutor over at the university as well. And we were able to set up some affordable counselling for all the students there, so they were able to do their 100 hours. And then the difference that it makes for us to be able to give counselling in real time, and make it grow depending on the need, it's just been phenomenal. It's just been just the best thing that we've done, really.
I think the beauty of it is as well is that like if you go to a night session or whatever and there's somebody who really needs that specialist help, you can give them that specialist help, whereas we felt a little bit potentially like we were failing people, didn't we? Because we were like, well, this person needs a much greater level of support than what maybe the Menfulness we can't facilitate that. Like we don't have the capacity, you know, we don't have the time. We cannot offer that level of support that this individual needs. And by being able to refer them into serendipity counselling, we can then stay as, you know, Jack at Menfulness rather than Jack, who is my emotional support and bit of crutch. I don't like to use that word, but you know what? You know where I'm going with it. Like, you know, we can remain a bit less formal as well as a person, as part of it. You know, rather than being that like real layer of support. And then, you know, it just means it takes a weight off us because we don't have the time or capacity to be able to do that.
Yeah.
You know?
We can't be all things to everyone.
No, we
can't. We're not a statutory service, you know, but with the counselling, we do have something we can signpost people to.
And I've used the phrase before, it's our USP, and it's probably the wrong phrase to use, but it really is. You know, there's other charities and organisations out there that do an incredible job, but are more prescriptive. They're more like, it's every Wednesday night, it's between 7 and 9, it's there, and this is what it is. Whereas obviously we're quite diverse in the model, I suppose. So when it comes to the counselling, that is not an end product, but it's almost like an option of like, instead of us signposting back to a GP, because we have GPs referring through to us now. So we don't want to just go, oh, you have to go back to GP. So it actually gives us that option. And it's a privilege to be able to do that as well. You know, people say to us, you know, what you're doing there is amazing. It's life-changing. It's life-saving. And it's like, well, actually, I'm just a glorified facilitator. Like, that's what it is. We're not doing anything amazing. We're just going,
but it's perfect the way that it works, because it means that these students that are as qualified, they've just qualified, they're keen, they're enthusiastic, and they know what they're doing, and they need their hours, and so we're able to help them. We've definitely, I know Sinead said that there's at least one, we've had a doctor actually, as well as just other counsellors. We've actually had a doctor that sort of got to that point through working with Menfulness clients and stuff. So it's helping them, it's working with them. But it's what we're telling people, isn't it? Don't man up, speak up. I feel like it's the pinnacle of what we do. If we can share enough together without counselling, then great. But if we can also reduce the stigma for people to feel like, oh, actually, there's loads of other blokes here that have had it, and they're all saying it's mint, and why wouldn't I now? There's no cost barrier, there's no waiting list. I'll just go and see. Like, it's not going to make things worse. I think that's what a few blokes have said is, I didn't really know, but you lot all talk a lot about it, and I didn't think it could make things worse. And then they go and they come back, and 90-odd% making meaningful change.
And I think the big thing as well, as Jack says now, it's not like, oh, you're going to have to wait a year, 18 months, probably a week.
Yeah.
Tops.
Yeah.
2 at the very, very most before someone makes contact and goes through the process map with you to get you into counselling if it's going to work for you. If it's going to be something. And that's huge, isn't it? Because you've got to strike when the iron's hot, so to speak. That person's ready now. You've got to take that opportunity, because if they go further down where they don't want to be, they might not be ready then, and they might not be in a position to be able to do it. And then, unfortunately,
you're talking about crisis, aren't you? Then
yeah.
That's what I hope we're doing, is we're diverting some people from ever needing that crisis
100%.
support.
And that's it, isn't it?
And there's no threshold of support, is there? So it doesn't, we're not asking loads of questions. We're just going, right, you're a bloke in York and you want some help. Right, okay. And we send it across the Sinead, and then she does all the relevant
she checks it's appropriate for them, doesn't she? Because we're not trying to step into like a clinical, we know that some people need more than what we can offer them. And I think that's maybe something that's changed. I know you were already facing that when I came on board, people referring people to you that were not appropriate. But I think that's helped. It's helped that we've got Sinead who can say, well, I'll do the sort of screening and make sure that this is appropriate for people. They're not already getting psychotherapy somewhere else where it might clash, or they're not, do you know what I mean? So I think that the bigger we get and the more we do, the more that might happen, that people will be referred to us because there's gaps in the...
appropriately, it's all confidential.
Yeah.
But what's amazing is, we get the emails, and then you can get only, I suppose, the people that respond to the emails.
Yeah.
So would know who access the counselling. And then when we did the York 10K, I knew there was at least 15, 20 guys who I had personally referred across to the counselling, and are wanting to do the York 10K to give back to the charity.
That's amazing.
And that's the difference between, at the time of need, we were able to respond and help them, and then they want to say thank you and give back. And then that's this kind of full circle.
But there's no expectation from us that they're going to give back.
No.
But it's just, and I always say to people as well, we don't even know. We don't even find out if you take the counselling on. We don't even know. We literally, we cover it through the finances. We send the money that we need to send to Sinead. We don't find anything out about, it's done in bigger chunks. So it's not like, oh, I've referred Sam Watling. Oh, Mike, I need you to send me. So it's pretty obvious. Yeah. It's done how it's done, and nobody really knows. So I could refer you, and I would never know if you've done the counselling or not unless you came and told me. Sinead would never tell me.
Yeah.
And that's the great thing. And
and
I think
it's nice when blokes do then go into the group and say, I'm having the counselling, because like you say, they don't have to do that, but it's nice to be able to see that it is impacting people, and it lets other people know that that's just a done thing within this group.
That anonymity is really
key
as well.
Of course it is.
So it's like, people aren't going to find out if I've gone or not.
No.
Oh, right, great. So if
it's another barrier, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't need to worry about going. I don't need to be like, oh, I'm still on the waiting list. Are you still on the waiting list?
But reducing that stigma, like you said, like in the groups, guys, it's so weird and bizarre, to normalise going and accessing mental health services and accessing counselling. It's kind of like top trumps. Like, I was there and it was like, oh, which counsellor did you have? Oh, yeah, she's dead nice, isn't she? Oh, I had that chap, and you're just like... What? This is like literally being in the playground talking about Trump's footy cards, and they're talking about counsellors. And I think that in itself says a lot. We normalised it, and the more people that see that go, "Oh, what? You've accessed it?" And it's like, anyway, did you see the footy? Just like it's a
second nature now.
Second nature.
Well, there was a fella at the Knights Talk group recently who he was giving someone some advice, and he sort of led up to this, and he used this phrase, and he said, and and I've had the counselling and all that sort of normal stuff, and then he carried on, and I was like, holy shit, how cool is that?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
he's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
That's the
all
normal
that normal
stuff now.
All that normal stuff.
Yeah.
that, like,
Passing comment.
yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, I think as well, it's like the stats. I mean, I'm not always very good at the stats, and they fall out of my head. But the amount of blokes who've been referred in, who've had the counselling now, it's like when you put them up on a screen or you put them on a social media post, people look at that and think, well, hang on a minute, there's
Well, in January there was 300 blokes and over 900 hours done, and that was in January. We're nearly there again. So we need a new figure off Sinead, don't we? But I can imagine
it's 400.
Yeah.
and the rest probably. You maybe even up to 500. Well, if you look at that, and there's 100,000 people in York, that's like 1%.
We're getting a big chunk, aren't we? I think that's the point of us as well, isn't it? Is that we know not everybody needs us all the time, or that some people want to come along and stay. Some people are just working on their fitness and want some football. But if everybody knows that we're there, then they know there is an option for them. Do you know what I mean?
I do quite a lot of presentations, don't I? PowerPoints for various things, and we did one at the Masons, didn't we, recently? And I always make the point that I don't like using the word success because I don't know if success is the right term to use in context of what we do.
Yeah.
But growth, certainly, and any sign of growth that we've had, as someone said earlier, is a sign that there's a want and a need
Yes.
in the male community in the region.
Yeah.
But it's always with that caveat that we can't be that arrogant to think that every bloke is going to want to engage with everything we do.
No.
That's fine, but like you just said, Sam, as long as they know we're here, that's where it goes, doesn't it?
And I think that's a key thing, isn't it? And that was a key thing with the way we branded it, wasn't it? It was never about branding this as a mental health charity, or because a lot of people, that is a huge barrier to them. It was a case of, we will brand this as a social group.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. You don't have to be suffering with your mental health to come here. But I think the position in terms of how people think of mental health now, as rather than just thinking of good, bad, or nothing. There's there's a spectrum or a continuum or whatever you want to call it, where everyone understands now that they will go through periods of good and probably periods of not so good mental health.
Yeah.
And I know, for me, Menfulness keeps my mental health from dipping below where I want it to be, or certainly helps keeping it up above. So rather than saying I'm coming to cure myself, I'm coming to just keep that good mental health.
Maintenance for some people. Yeah, because I think some people will just internalise everything till the point that they're at crisis point. And there is a lot of blokes, I can't remember the stats, but there's a lot of men who never go to a GP or to any services before they take their own lives. And it's like, well, is there a way of getting people like that at a really early stage and letting them know that you don't have to wait to that point? You
That's why
you
it's
can
so
just show up.
for like the Grand Opera House is a good example. They put the posters in the toilets, right? In theory, it's just they're just putting a poster on a wall, right? But how important could that be? Where one guy who's on that journey, and he might only ever just think, okay, well that's enough. I know they're there if I need them. I know where I can turn. But he might go through the whole. He might come to the events. He might go through counselling. That could be the turning point. So, like you said, like obviously, if someone sees it, they're on that journey. Actually, they're more likely to just open up, and that's why I wear this to Tesco. That's why the brand goes everywhere, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think the beauty of it is there's that many different ways to access it. You've got your podcasts, got the YouTube stuff. You've got the events themselves, you've got the online communities. You could just go and watch Darren's YouTube video of the Menfulness meets. Just watch it. I mean, and I mean that like gets me pretty much every time. Like it's such a powerful and positive sort of endorsement of us. But it's just it's tragic that Darren got into that sort of like state that he got himself to. But we helped him build back into a much better place.
Yeah, and that video is amazing. We'll put the link in the description because it's something special, is that. Okay, well, thank you for your question, Stephen. So we'll move on. So why do you think the men's mental health movement is growing now? And where do you see Menfulness fitting in with all the other groups working in this space? That's from Nigel. It's a big question, isn't it? Why is it growing now? I mean, I think it's been growing for a long time. And it's
normalised.
It's maybe just a bit more. You see celebrities talking about it more.
Yeah. I also think social media is a good thing for us as well. A lot of guys are signposted to us via our social media, and I think the fact that we have the open Facebook page with hundreds of thousands of people engaging with it, there's a lot of women that interact on that page, and they'll signpost their male friends and family towards us. So I think social media, although social media can be a negative thing, it's a really positive thing for us, and it's very current nowadays. So I think that's a big reason why it's growing for us.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
don't think we've jumped on any bandwagon particularly. I feel quite strongly about that, because I have had people say to me, "Oh well, mental health is in the media everywhere at the moment."
Someone said that to me actually. I know they meant well, but when I was like telling them what I was going through, they were like, "Oh, you'll be all right. It's all the rage now."
Yeah,
mental
It's all the rage.
I was like,
Trendy,
Everyone's had it.
Thank you. I think
feeling shitty's all the rage.
Yeah. But no, we said earlier this came organically, really, from Yorkie Dads.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't set out to think, right, we're going to start a dads group, and then we're going to go straight into a mental health support group. That's not
been
how
very
it happened.
I don't think we even really set out to start a dad's group, did we?
you needed something to do with the kids, and you set it up.
Set out having breakfast, didn't we? We're just meeting up and having breakfast, like, you know, with the kids and stuff, and that was it.
All we have done really is set up a community. That's the way I look at it. And like, going back to the previous question, one thing I love when we engage with all these guys is that quite a lot of blokes now just use it as a social outlet. The mental health aspect is almost secondary for some of them.
But how important do you think that it is that you've got people in the media like Tyson Fury or Roman Kemp who are putting stuff out there, who are still, who are successful, they're, traditionally masculine, or however you want to put it, who are then saying, "I'm not okay sometimes, and I need help."
It's not disregarding that.
No, do you know what I mean? It's like, do you think that is meaning that that's why we're getting more and more people, because it's normalised more broadly?
I think as a concept, like nationally, globally, it's become a lot more acceptable.
Yeah.
I do think, and you look at rugby players who've turned around and said, "I'm not going on that tour. I ain't got the brain space for it." And I think having all those kind of people, like, like traditionally sort of masculine,
like Joe Marler or someone.
Yeah, well, Joe Marler was a classic one. He'd got young kids at home. He just says, "Oh, I'm not going on that tour. I don't want to go. Basically, I want to stay at home and help my wife look after the kids, and I don't really have the brain space to go away." And I mean, if anyone's seen Joe Marler, you wouldn't sort of
imagine that.
Yeah,
I've met him. He's a unit.
He's massive. He's got he pulls crazy faces all the time. He's got a mohawk. He's covered in tats.
Yeah.
And he's just about as, if you were to draw a picture of masculinity, of like, old-fashioned masculinity, Joe Marler would be pretty much what you draw. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that's it, isn't it? Those labels that we give ourselves, like, I'm supposed to be the strong one, or I'm supposed to be the one that people rely on, especially as a teammate in a sport like that. It must be really hard to say, "I can't be what you need right now." Yeah. And I know in like construction, in the army, in the police, I can imagine that there's a lot of people are relying on me to be that guy. And so to be able to step out and say, "I'm not that guy right now," takes courage. It isn't a weakness, because actually it's harder to do that than it is to just internalize it all and try and pretend everything's okay.
Well, I think that was really important. What you put out the other day through to the volunteers was about, being in the right space for the events and things. I thought, and it sparked quite a bit of conversation between the volunteers who've sort of agreed with what you've said. And I think it was a really...
Well, I recognise that I've got myself into that position because I've felt, since Menfulness, as good as I've felt in a long time. I've got myself into that position where I'm the guy that people come to for stuff. I'm the trustee, I'm the one who's putting the podcasts out, I'm the one asking the questions. And it then means I'd got myself into a point where I'd stopped sharing about how I was feeling. And I think that it is important that we all do that. I know we've got our group that we can do that in, but it works. We all access it, we all need it, and we all get something from it. Okay.
There's a second bit to that one.
There was, yeah. So where do you think men's mental health movement is growing now, and where do you see Menfulness fitting in with all the other groups working in this space? Yes, I suppose we do. We work quite closely with a lot of other
I don't think we fit. I like that, and this is going to, I don't know, this might sound a bit sassy, but I don't think we fit in. I genuinely think that we're doing something very, very different, and I feel like there are probably bigger organisations, statutory organisations like the NHS, who would probably look at this model and say, that works and makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So although we are fitting in because I feel like we're filling a gap, I also feel like we're not just fitting in, are we?
We're truly user-led. Or
Yes.
customer-led. I don't like the word user or customer, but we're led by the people as the community.
Yeah.
They come forward with ideas or a need, and we try our best to respond to that where we can and put it on.
When we attended the Lord Mayor's event, and
Yeah.
it was myself, Sam, and Mike, and this was just after we won the award. Was that October, November? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
something like that. Yeah.
What one of the many?
Just
awards.
casually dropping in about the award.
shoehorn that in, you know.
Like,
we won an award, you know.
Multi-award winning.
Yeah,
now.
multi-award winning, yeah. But we got invited to this event in town that was hosted by the mayor, and all our peers in terms of mental health support or charities in the region were in the room pretty much, weren't they? And it was great. It was a really, really lovely event. It was really nice to be invited, for
Yeah,
one
it was a
thing,
pleasure, yeah.
to be in a room with all these people. Sam did an amazing job talking to the
Yes,
group. You did. You
fantastic,
knocked it
mate,
out of the
yeah.
park there, mate.
Thank you.
But one thing that struck me was, and again, I am in no way putting down anyone else in the room here because they all did fantastic work. You know, we met so many good volunteers, all these great people.
There's a but.
There's a but. No, but every single one of them that I met, some of them knew who we were, quite a few didn't. And they were asking, what do you do? You know, what do Menfulness do? And that's quite a big question, isn't it? So and I started saying, well, we do these events, and every single one of them went, you do a lot.
Yeah.
And it was one of those where, and you know, I mentioned the counselling, for example, and they're going, wow, that's amazing, you know.
Most people assume that we're staff.
Yeah, and you
Rather
know,
than
again,
trustees.
yes, absolutely, Sam. And quite a few said, "Oh, is this your job now? You know, I've got a full-time job, and I'm a carer at home. I do all this on top of all that." And when I got home, it was one of those moments where, you know, it's not that you want to blow your own trumpet or pat yourself on the back, but I just thought, actually, we do quite a lot here.
Yeah.
You know, we have
Pat
got
yourself
something.
on the
Thanks.
back.
You can pat me on the back. But, you know, it's one of those moments where I just thought, actually, we are doing something pretty special here.
I was stood
you know.
watching the boys at football training, and one of the mums, I can't remember what we were talking about, and we got onto what I do for a living, and then they were like, "What you don't do Menfulness as your job?" And I'm like, "Oh no," and they were genuinely like sort of shocked, and it was like, well, no, it's just like something that we sort of fit in, and but I do think the fact that we are sort of community led as part of the community, like people want to do stuff, so we just essentially try and facilitate that as best we can, like
I think that's
logistically or financially.
that makes us stand out, I think. But I think we do, like, we've got partners like the CDLF that are doing something. They're raising funds. They've got their own counselling offer that's not sort of gender specific, if you like. We work quite closely with them on all sorts of stuff, don't we? And it's the same with York Mind. They've come on the podcast. They refer people to us that they think are appropriate. We know we communicate about what they've got going on in the city. So when there's something that we can share with our lads. So I think we do fit in. I think we do work well in there. But I think you're right. There was a gap of something that people can work on themselves. You know what I mean? Something where people can take ownership of it.
I think you used to hit the nail on the head, Jack, when you basically said, "We're not precious, are we?"
No, and we're not. We do it because it's the right thing to do, and I don't think there's many organisations like that because they're worrying about the success of what we are doing is because none of us are worried about getting paid. Whereas when you're a big corporate company or you're an organisation, a charity organisation, and you're worried about paying the bills, you have to bring in a certain amount of money. So all the money that comes in, we just do it because it's the right thing, or the counselling is the right thing to do because there's loads of people that are coming from crisis line or the GP or mental health services or even Foss Park who are being referred to us, and we're like, what? You know, it's amazing, but everybody's shocked that we are just volunteers. And when I look back, I'm shocked that we're volunteers with all the stuff that we're doing. But there's a capacity thing, but we always seem to find more capacity. But then how much does that take out on us? We always got to remember that we want to benefit from it, like you're talking about, Sam, just as much as what we're putting in, because now it's, you know, we're not service led. It's not us as volunteer, and I think your message really resonated with me because there are some points where you're like, oh, I'm not getting as much out of this, and we've always said it's got to be fun.
Yeah,
And
well,
there
you
has
set it
been-
up, didn't we? For
There
that?
has been a few moments where it's like, this is hard, and what are we getting in return? Oh yeah, it's really nice, people patting you on the back, and it's good for your ego, and you feel good that you're making a massive difference. But actually, how much it takes out of you or from your family, or the strength to do it, it's massive amount of commitment. And we've always got to remember that, you know, we're all just guys with our own struggles and our own mental health.
I think you know, you do get a sense of fulfillment. I'm sure I can speak on behalf of all you boys here. You get a sense of fulfillment out of doing this that you don't get from anything else. I certainly don't. Anyway. You know, that like you were saying, Matty, when I get, well, one of you said, when I leave those voice notes, I'm just so giddy after the night sessions, which, considering what I've been talking about, that shouldn't be the case. But you get a buzz from it. But I think something else that Jack said there, you know, we've got to give a shout out here to the wives and girlfriends, or one of Matty's.
Cheers, Dan. Thank you.
Well, I was going to say one of your 20 girlfriends, Matty, because I can't keep up.
Which one should we thank?
The revolving door.
Miss Wednesday. Miss Friday.
I was going to say something I shouldn't there.
Fiona Friday.
We don't need to be beeping anything out, Matty.
No.
But we do, you know, we genuinely do, because, you know, they put up with us doing this a lot of the time, don't they? And
massively.
you know, look after the kids and what have you. So I think we've got to say that.
Yeah, and that is one of the questions, actually. You've all got young families and jobs. How do you juggle it all and still keep showing up in other parts of your life?
I've got no idea.
I think that's it, though, isn't it? It's having people who in our lives who recognise how important this is to us, and how good it is for that we're better by being a part of this.
I think as well, I think a big thing is, and I go back to that message that you put out the other day. I think we've become a lot better at recognising when we're not in the right space, or you know, the empty bucket sort of description. And I think we've got a lot better at realising that if our bucket hasn't got anything in it, we can't just keep going and going and going, because we're just gonna fall over, aren't we?
Well, there's been times when I've gone, you know, can't function, and one of you stepped in and says, "I'll take that. That's for me. I can do that." And it's like we will look out for each other in that respect.
That's why I like our team, because we all bring something different, but we don't have specific roles. We have different skills, things that we're better at. There's things that you do, Sam, that I wouldn't have a clue where to start with. But
Ditto,
I think, I think that's why it
Nobody
works.
puts themselves in front of a camera better than you.
My mum says I get where water can't. That's what she said. But yeah,
I've only got 3 spotlights. Make it 5.
There's basically, like you said, if there's a time where where one of us is like, I need to step out, you know, quite often, more often than not, we don't have to take the strain as such, because we don't have specific roles.
But again, we can be honest with each other as well.
That's
and you're not. No one's going to think any different. As a team. You know, we can comfortably put our hands up and say, look, I can't do this tonight. I've got the capacity. I'm busy. Whatever it might be.
So, next question. What is your biggest wow moment so far? And that's from Matthew. There's been a few, haven't there, recently? I mean, I feel like this year's we've won some awards, which always feels weird, but also amazing, doesn't it? The York Press Community Pride Award and the BBC Make a Difference Award. Those for me were just, you know, like sat in the room and hearing people doing all this stuff and being like, oh, you know.
I wouldn't mind, but in the categories like the charities and organisations that were in, I was going to say up against them, but it's not really right to say, is it? But the other nominees were incredible. And we're sat there going, oh well, you know, they deserve to win it. And then it's like Menfulness, you're like, what?
Giving it to us.
I was happy with a dinner and a bit of a natter with some really cool people, and then that was special.
That was
that was.
Dare I use the word humble? You know, very humble player.
I was
training.
That was a pretty proud moment, wasn't it? To stand up and just you know, have that like accolade or that kind of thing to say, do you know what, guys, you are doing a really, really good job, and you are making a difference, and you are doing something which is making other people's lives better. That's what makes me so proud of Menfulness, is that we are, and we've always said it, haven't we? If it changes one person's life, then it's a success, isn't it? But I think that actually we're changing a number of people's lives, or we're not necessarily changing it. We're helping them maintain their good standard of living by coming to our events. And I think
someone pointed out that actually, because we've left these awards events with these awards and thought, oh yeah, how are we walking away with these awards? But then someone pointed out quite rightly that the other charities and organisations, most of which that's what they do for their jobs.
Yeah.
The people there nominate for they do that for their jobs, and we're doing that in our spare time. And actually, it is easy to lose focus on that. We talk about how difficult it can be sometimes, but actually, sometimes pat ourselves on the back. You've got to, haven't you?
Yeah.
I mean, like the award ceremonies are amazing, and let's be honest, we like going because we like a good drink and we like getting dressed up and having a good time just with each other. And we never go expecting to win, but certainly the work that we're doing at York St John at the moment, which we'll talk about, won't we? But Menfulness 2.0. The stuff that is coming out of that is just like literally mind blowing. Like the difference and the impact that we are having, because we can talk about it, can't we? As guys that set up Menfulness, we can talk about eating pizza and going to retro and playing Mario Kart is good for your mental health. But actually, we need a little bit more than that to help with our funders.
Prove it,
and the evidence and the difference is real. But I suppose for me, like the biggest highlight, and always puts a smile on my face, is going through our YouTube and seeing the Menfulness meets with Darren
every time.
And it just, like, Darren's a close friend of mine, and knowing his journey and his story, and he's a proper Yorkshire lad, he's not like us. He's just like proper humbled, nice guy who's got he's had his own struggles as a family man, and the difference and the impact that it's made. I watch it all the time and seeing, just as a friend, the difference that we can make in, and that's worth it. If we retire now, just that video for me is
that's why we
just
do it.
that's a beautiful thing.
That video, mate, there's a couple of times, you have a bit of a wobble of like, why am I fitting all this into my life?
Yeah.
Bang.
Yeah.
Put Darren's video on. Oh, that's exactly why.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to find more time to do stuff
Yeah.
because that guy, like, and that's it. That's probably one of my biggest wow moments, I think. And like the 2.0, I think will be the next wow moment.
Yeah.
And the impact report and the quotes that people had put on that we got put together.
Yeah.
That was incredible. Like that was a proper wow moment when you're reading the quotes from people and what people have said about Menfulness and how it's helped them, and that reaffirms that this is worth doing. So therefore now it's worth it's worth me prioritizing that, not over family or anything like that, but it's worth me just maybe push a little harder at what I can do.
I had a couple of weeks just personally about a month ago where I think it was 4 events in about 10 days. One was when we went to present to the Masons, and that was a really cool night, just going, being invited and, experiencing it all and all that sort of thing. I did a presentation at the University of York with Pete Quinn. Big shout out to Pete, absolute legend. I presented at a 60th birthday party. Now,
I forgot
that was a tough gig. Because
he's 40
after the
he's
band.
40, mate. He's not 60.
He looks a lot older. But
I got asked to go because the lady whose party it was such a lovely gesture. Was not asking for any presents. She wanted people to make donations to us because we'd helped her son, which is such a lovely thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's huge.
And Andy Knowles was going to go because he'd been invited, and they'd said, could you speak for 5 minutes before the band goes on? She had Huge on, the band. So they had the full lighting rig set up and everything. And Andy said, I've double booked myself, I can't go. Can you go? And I said, yeah, fine, I'll turn up. Well, everyone's pissed up, aren't they? There's about 200 people in the room, and I get up, and they're expecting and they're expecting some like Robbie Williams tribute acts or something. And then I get up and start talking about mental health and suicide, and it's a party. Let's go.
I'm not being funny, Dan. With your guns, they would be expecting a Chippendale, mate. That's why they were disappointed.
They wouldn't have donated anything, mate. I took my clothes off. But that was quite the experience. And then just after that, we then got invited to the Kevin Sinfield event, and we met Kevin Sinfield.
That is a wow moment.
And just the fact that we got invited to that, and this was all within 2 weeks. And
it was nuts.
after all that, I remember again, I had a little moment to myself, going, that was brilliant. You know,
What
I've
a
done
mad
all
couple
these
of
things,
weeks.
and this is all through Menfulness.
And the same night you were meeting Kevin Sinfield, I was hobnobbing with Frank Bruno.
Oh, yeah.
It was just like, how's it going with Kevin? Oh, yeah, I'm starting with Frank.
Actually, that's Sir Kevin to you.
Yeah. My two superheroes.
Yeah. It is nuts, isn't it? You like that. Yeah, I mean, I remember just when we met Kevin Sinfield, he shook his hand, and I was just a bit like, oh, I don't even
fanboying out a little
yeah,
bit.
totally. Like, I mean, even when Jamie Jones Buchanan was just chatting away with us, I've stood there just like, don't say anything stupid. Just talk normal. Don't tell him that you think he's amazing.
It's not just the fact that he represents the sport that you guys all love, but also like he represents the ethos of Menfulness so well as well, doesn't he? And that what he's doing and how he's bringing people together, and he's making it okay to be vulnerable and to love your fellow man. You know what I mean? It's just what a special moment that must have been.
Well, I just love the way he describes it as, well, it's what you do for your mates.
Yeah,
he totally plays it down all the time, doesn't he? And like that speech he did, I didn't even once talk about Kevin Sinfield. He was just talking about Rob and everybody else.
About everyone else, it was the first thing he said when he came out. He said, "Oh well, Matty and JJB, you thanked the room, but no one's thanked you, so I want to thank you for." And I was just like, "You're welcome."
Yeah, but that was a big gig for you, Matty.
It was all right, wasn't it? Yeah, talking about being a media
hosted it then.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's good fun. It's good fun.
There's
probably, to be fair,
how many people did you poison before they got
all
to
the
you?
people? All the people.
Oh no, they're busy. Oh, they're sick. Oh, they're sick. Oh, we've got to
Matty Lewis. Manfulness. There was
Plan G.
for me. There was two wow moments for me. There's obviously like Kevin Sinfield. There was the Jimmy Carr. Obviously was a big one. But the
just to tell people, Jimmy Carr held up our poster on stage and said, "What did he say?"
He said there are guys that struggle with the mental health that come to comedy gigs to put them in a better place. So if you're here, these guys do amazing things. Check them out.
I think it's a pretty fucking good cause.
He
obviously had to swear.
But so there was that. There was I think the two this year. The first was Channel 4 with the racing and the whole week around that. And like it's cool to do cool stuff alongside you guys. So to be next to Jack doing that, and just to be able to say, we're Menfulness and this is what we do, and just to be able to say on the telly, which was cool. But the second one, which is a bit deeper, I suppose, is when and he won't mind me saying his name because he was on the podcast. Is when James Howard went on a different podcast, and he was talking about his interaction with Menfulness, and he was basically saying about how he was in a really tough spot. At a point where he felt like it could have been a really bad decision, and he just picked up the phone to me. He could have picked up the phone to any one of us, but he picked up the phone to me and just said, "Look, I need help." And I said, probably just something that rolls off the tongue naturally to all of us. And I just said, "Oh, I've got you. Don't worry, I've got you. Like, you go into that meeting, I'll arrange that for you. All done and dusted." And he said that was like affirming for him. That was a moment. Just to hear those words is now for me to hear him talk about that publicly, for me personally, was a wow moment, and that's obviously bigger than all this getting on the telly and stuff.
I think sometimes I personally have this, and I'm sure this is what you're talking about, Matty. Sometimes I can lose sight of the impact we can have on people because we're so caught up in the day to day of it. And there was one incident. I'll make this quick. But there was one incident at the Knights where I won't say his name, but one of the lads who was there, who I've got to know quite well, but I didn't know his story. And that's the whole point of the logo, isn't it? You know, that's Mike, you came up with that idea for the logo, that there's a side that you can't see. You know, we don't know everyone's story, do they, when they come in? And this lad told us in the group, and I was sort of hosting the group, he told us his story and the really severe health issues he's had. And, you know, I won't go into absolute detail about what it was, but I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea what this kid had been through. And then he said, "Menfulness has got me through it." You know, he told me that directly. And I could feel myself getting emotional now. I genuinely had to leave the room because I had a little tear because I was just like, holy shit. You know, I never ever considered that would be the case. And
we've got quite a good partnership now with Nestle, like an amazing partnership. And sadly, they lost a 19-year-old colleague to suicide, Hewitt. And the impact and the difference that he made to his workplace was incredible. And they did a fundraiser for us, a football fundraiser, and there was just hundreds of people there, and pizzas, and it was like a carnival event. And they asked me to do a speech, and all of Ewan's family was there, and I've never met Ewan before, and it was just gone. I said, I've never. Look, this is going to be one of the hardest speeches that I've ever going to be able to do, but like the impact is clearly that he's made to all of you as a community. I'm just proud to be here. And his dad came up to me and he called me a bastard. And he went, "Oh, you bastard! I was fine up until you spoke, and gave me the biggest hug. Like you could feel him literally. I don't know, like collapse onto me. Just like I could feel his kind of energy that he just needed to, and just it gives me goosebumps just now talking about it. And like I've got 4 new friends, and I don't want any more of them who've lost sons to suicide. And it's just like.
Yeah.
That's why we keep going, and that's why, and not just and helping those families. You know, like the One More Day poem that we did, like, and within a couple of weeks we asked people who have been affected by suicide, and we literally were inundated, weren't we, within a couple of weeks, and that's just really within York.
That was something I was going to mention actually. The One More Day poem for me, having Matt Kelly gift us a poem like One More Day, and then being able to work with Johnny, who's there. And
he's good looking enough to be on this side of the camera, isn't he? Really,
He's too good looking to be on this screen.
Too much hair.
He's far too much hair.
But you know, like
failed the audition.
But having that, being able to like do something really cool and have Johnny like come in and like he does the Daz story. Johnny made that look like it.
All the Menfulness mates, and I said that. Do you know when we had a little look after the curry night, and I said this is turning into big up Johnny moment, but
as it should be.
When we have ideas on projects that we want to put out there, and I'm hoping it's going to be the same with this, is that we have this idea, but Johnny he makes it even better than we had in our minds. That perfect version we had in our minds, Johnny makes it better.
Elevates it.
So yeah, well played.
Well, that video for the live event last year was just unreal, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean,
and the one they did with Brendan at the stadium. I think that's it. Is that it's really important because, like you were saying with social media and stuff, is that we want to try and get people who don't know what we're about to care and to think maybe it's worth giving them a go. And so we need to look professional, but we need to look interesting and cool. And yeah, Johnny helps us do that. And as Matt Kelly did, he helped us. We want to add to the conversation around suicide and around men's mental health, and putting out content that allows us to like do that in a positive way, and also all those people trust us with photographs of their loved ones at the end. It was just, and the feedback that we've had from that video is just game changing. So for me, it's to keep doing things like that, keep trying to push the boundaries a little bit and do special things together.
Yeah, I mean that poem and that video. It's almost a bit of a dangerous one, isn't it? But it was done brilliantly. It was done really.
It's one of the most taboo, stigmatized subjects there is.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be. And I think that we're the more of that. I think next year, hopefully.
Yeah. With regards to this, though, you know what they say: they can't polish. Yeah, can roll in glitter, man.
We'll see. He's worked with worse. Okay, so next question. How do you try and implement Menfulness values into your day-to-day lives, like your jobs and your mates? And that's from Matty.
Aged 5.
Do you know what?
Do you want to take that first?
Yeah, I'll take it. Thanks
for answering your own question.
Yeah.
That's a Matty.
Yeah. I'll take this one, boys.
To be fair, I did ask you all to put a question in yourselves as well.
We have values.
Well, thanks for asking. So,
what a good question.
Thank you. Yeah,
it's a good one.
I should have changed the name. It should have been from Johnny Mennell. I think for me, like values, we talk about reaching out to our mates all the time. But actually, I've been guilty of just keeping shit to myself and bottling stuff up. But then there's also things like I've said to you and like I said on the podcast originally, was that, never have 2 bad days in a row and always practice gratitude, and then not to lose focus of that. Because I never thought that before I interacted with Menfulness. That was all stuff that's like that you boys have rubbed off on, not like that. That you boys have rubbed off on me, like, and so it's those sorts of it did. And it's those sorts of things that I think, that has made me a better person. So those values, that's helped me. So although I try and implement that, and I give that advice out myself now, that's because I know it's helped me. So that's how I implement it into my day to day, I suppose.
No, I agree, and I feel like it feels like a privileged position that people now know what we do. We wear it every day, everywhere. We have podcasts. We're putting out that message, and actually now my friends, people that are close to me, come to me. People that I didn't know were going through stuff before. People that maybe have just hit a hurdle that they feel like they can turn to me and say, can you help? Can we talk? And that feels like something very special to be in that position for people.
There's a friend of mine that I catch up with him every couple of months, and the whole time that I've been a trustee with Menfulness, he said, "Oh, how's it going with that?" And he'd never really mentioned anything about himself. And then he actually said to me, he said, "Oh, but we met, I think it was last Christmas actually, we'd met," and he basically said, "This year's been really tough for me, but going back to what I mentioned earlier, just knowing that you're on the end of the phone and Menfulness is there if I need it was enough for me to get through that year." And that was quite a moment as well for like a mate to say that. And it's about being, excuse me, like being approachable, isn't it? And like backing up what we say and making sure we are there for people and we can facilitate. And we are. We're just a big supportive cuddle, aren't we?
I think, Jack, that you sort of created this quote, didn't you? I think is the best one, and I think it's my favourite Menfulness quote, is that we can't solve all your problems, but you don't have to face them alone. And I think it's just a brilliant sort of monologue for life, really. Like we can help you with certain things, but we might not be able to fix everything. And that's like that blokey kind of thing, isn't it? All right, that's broken. Right, well, what do I need to fix it? We might not be able to fix everything, but whatever's happening, there's going to be somebody through Menfulness that you'll meet who will go through it with you or help you go through it. And I think that's a huge part of it. And I think that's a good one.
I saw something the other day on social media. I tend to pick these out now with my Menfulness hat on. You see these little quotes and phrases and you think, that's a good one. I'm going to keep that in my back pocket. And I saw something that said, it's not what you have, it's who you have. And I thought, absolutely. And like Mike was saying, it's that peer-to-peer support, it's that experience that people bring into the group, isn't it?
This next and final question is, what is the end destination? And it's probably this podcast, isn't it?
It was
Any good innings.
No, there's a few questions similar, but around sort of what's next for us, future plans, and what the end destination is. And I think that is a biggie, isn't it? I know we're going to do some talking about that after this. We're going to have a sit down and a talk about the future. But is there anything that anyone's got sort of in mind? And perhaps we can talk about Menfulness 2.0 a little bit among this as well, because I think that'll help us decide what comes next.
I think it's exciting, but it's also daunting in a way, personally, that we're clearly onto something good here. And we have reached capacity, haven't we, in terms of what we can do?
Yeah.
I think it's quite obvious that we can grow it. We could just venture out to Tadcaster or Pocklington and start doing things there. But again, it's that capacity issue. Excuse me. But I think Menfulness 2.0 is going to give us a very clear idea of what's coming next. And that's very exciting. But also, it is going to change things.
We quite often
I'm always a little bit like, I don't want it to change. I like it like this. But it's going back to the question earlier about when we said what's changed when we became a charity. If the dream would be that we do this full time as jobs, wouldn't it? It'd be great, but that it wouldn't be the same.
All 5 of us, a big office with like slides in it. Which apparently is not dissimilar to what Movember's like in Australia. It's possible.
Oh, really?
But
we go. Well, our favourite phrase, or not favourite phrase, but a phrase that we seem to use all the time is, "Well, it's a nice problem to have." And it's the same, isn't it? The issue we've got now is that we have this model that really works, and we want to do more and more. We want to help more and more men. Like, if we could implement this model in every town and city in the UK, how amazing would that be? But to do that, you don't want to dilute what we're doing in York. It's it's the biggest problem to have, but it's a nice problem to have.
I always go back to, like, I quite like watching things like Dragon's Den, and they do it. The thing is that to implement this somewhere else, you've got to find 3, 4, 5 people who have got a level of friendship that we've got, that we trust, that you can be, but we can be brutally honest with each other as well, and nobody's gonna. But there's a sort of core DNA between the 5 of us about what we think Menfulness is and what it should be and what it should look like, and if there's any scope that we feel like we're going off track, we just stop it, don't we, and just bring it back to that. And I think that's why we've never fell out, is because there's that core bit of DNA that runs between all 5 of us, that basically we all want Menfulness to do the right thing and the good thing and promote this. And I think that is what we always fall back on. Yeah. And I think that's such a huge part of Menfulness. And I think that's the tricky thing about expanding it to other cities or other towns, is that we're very aware that we support men or people who identify as male, and that can be a barrier. And we've been very fortunate, haven't we, that we haven't really had misogynistic stuff and things like that. And every time we've had any even glimmer of it, we've absolutely shut it down. If you don't have someone who's got the wherewithal or the abilities to do that, it could go in a very different direction.
Yeah, I get that.
Well, you have to have an element of control over it at the end of the day.
Okay.
And I think, anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree.
We've got a brand now. We've got, which are the ethos and values that we're talking about. And we're going to have to be careful how we do it. But again, like Matty said, it's a nice problem to have.
Yeah, there could be geographical expansion. There could be expansion on what we do here. But I think Menfulness 2.0 is essentially York St John University helping us evaluate what it is that's improving men's lives about what we do. So if we ever do want to grow it outwards or internally, we'll know which bits of it and why. And hopefully that will be something that we can use to springboard us to the next step. I'm conscious that we are running out of battery a little bit right now, and we have come
social
to the
battery.
Yeah, no, the emotional battery. No, it's probably a good time for us to draw this to a close, unless anyone has anything else that they want to add. Hopefully everybody, even though we haven't been able to answer everyone's questions, I imagine that we've probably covered the questions. And so thank you to anyone who's submitted a question to us. Thank you for listening to this podcast. There's plenty more online if you want to go and check out the Menfulness podcast. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, Apple, anywhere that you get your podcasts from. Thank you to you boys for making the time and getting cozy in my back room.
It's been nice.
I hope we can do it again sometime. And also, it's been a while since we've done that last podcast with you all.
I've never been this intimate with 5 men on the sofa.
So hopefully we can get you back for another podcast again soon, individually as well. But until next time, thank you for joining us. And
thanks for your support.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we should probably say a really big thank you to all of our volunteers, all of our partners. Like, we are just 5 people. We literally could not do what we do without the 12 blokes who help us do that, and without all of the partners and funders and people who believe in what we're trying to do.
Marathons
I think the biggest thank you is to all the guys that have reached out for help and asked for help and had that support of us, because without them showing that amount of strength and vulnerability, then obviously Menfulness wouldn't be what it is. So thank you to all them guys who have struggled and asked for help.
So thank you to you for listening, and until next time, good night.